Hi everybody, my name is Ron, and I'm going to be doing the Pi Day book tag, which was created by Angela from Literature Science Alliance. I knew I was going to stumble over that. It's a great, fairly new channel. You should check her out. I will link down below. So I'm just going to jump right into the tag questions here. The first one is, pi is an irrational number. Name a character who you feel is irrational. And that's kind of easy for me because it's a book I'm currently reading and I'm kind of struggling with for this very fact. This is The Last Mortavons by Brian Stavely, which is book 3 in the Chronicles of the Unhewn Throne, and it centers upon these 3 children of an emperor, and their empire has been broken and messed up, and there's 2 whole books of things to talk about before it. But the one thing I really want to talk about in relation to this tag is the character Adair, who, if there's any kind of problem or question or thing, a choice to be made, she will absolutely every single time make the worst possible decision ever. So I really question her rationality, and the way that she is the way she is. It really makes me not want to pick up the book. I'll be reading along, and there's generally, there's 3 main characters, and it generally shifts between the 3 POVs, and you'll read the one character, then the other character, and then you'll come to an Adair chapter, or I'll come to an Adair chapter, and I don't want to pick it up because I know she's going to make terrible decisions. That's all she does. So, really creative world building in this book. It's well written. Really dumb character. The second prompt is, pi comes from the word
perimetro,
which means perimeter. Talk about a book that has to do with borders between 2 countries or worlds. Thanks to Google Translate for the assist on the pronunciation there. So the book that this prompt made me immediately think of was The City and the City by China Mieville. So this book on its face is just basically a noir mystery story following a detective. But what's really unique about it is the setting, which is these 2 cities that, for unexplained reasons, have become, or have always been, sort of wrapped together and intertwined between each other. And they're not just different cities, they're almost different countries intertwined together into this single city. And the people who live there may live right next to each other and walk through the streets to each other, but they are not allowed to notice or acknowledge each other. And if they do, they get into trouble. And even if, to move from one part of the city, from one city to another, there's actually a legal way to do it, but only through one place, a customs place. You have to go through customs, and then you can notice the other city, even though they're all intertwined with each other. So this mystery happens, it's a murder that happens on both sides, in both cities, a murder that happens, the trail goes through both cities, so this detective has to travel back and forth between the cities to try and solve it. And it's a really neat story. It's a really great book. The metaphors are, I don't know, they may seem a little obvious, or maybe not, but about how we go through our lives noticing and not noticing people around us based on things like social strata or education or color, and you just don't notice. So yeah, it's a really amazing book. I think everyone should read it. On to prompt 3. Pi is a constant. What's a comforting book constant in your life? So I'm not really going to choose a book, but what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to choose an author. William Gibson is probably the author I've reread most, specifically Neuromancer and the Sprawl series. That's Neuromancer. This is Count Zero and Mona Lisa Overdrive, my collection of completely mismatched mass market paperbacks, which I really love. I've read that series more than any other. I've read all of Gibson's series. I just read his most recent book, Agency, which is the second book set in his world that he started in the book The Peripheral. Wouldn't really call it a sequel for complicated reasons. But yeah, William Gibson is one of my favorite authors, and one of the very few authors that I go back and reread over and over again. So, prompt number 4. Pi has infinite decimal places. What is a series that you feel will never end? So, I've been reading the Dresden Files, and this is not my answer, but in reading the Dresden Files, it made me want to go back and start reading some books that came, some urban fantasy books that came before the Dresden Files, sort of get like the basis of where the Dresden Files came from. And one of the books that was said, well, if you want to know the history of how the Dresden Files came about, you have to read Anita Blake's Vampire Hunter series. So I did. I read the first book, and I thought it was really good, and I said, well, maybe I'll continue on with it. And then I looked in Goodreads, and there are 27 books, and the newest one, Sucker Punch, comes out this year. That will be the 27th book. And I've been told things about the series, how it changes over time, so I may not continue the entire to read all the way through it, but I might read until it starts to turn into what people have warned me about. But it seems like at 27 books and a series that started in the 90s, this is a series that is never going to end. All right, prompt number 5. What's your favorite pie, and name a book that you feel embodies that pie? Well, I'm going to be the guy who says, I love apple pie. Apple pie is a great pie. It's like a perfect pie. It's delicious. You know, I don't know anyone who doesn't like apple pie. They may prefer something else to it, but given a choice of having no pie and having apple pie, I've never met anyone who says, no, I'm not eating apple pie. And so apple pie is like, the saying, as American as apple pie, which actually makes no sense because apples, the eating apples that we eat here are not native to North America, and pies were made in Europe. Apple pies were made in Europe long before America ever came about. The United States, Europeans came over here. They brought the pies with them. So the book I'm going to choose that sort of fits that motif of as American as apple pie is American Gods by Neil Gaiman, which I just read a few weeks ago. And it's the first Neil Gaiman book that I've really loved. And I think it fits this prompt really well for a couple of reasons. First, Neil Gaiman is he's English, and he's moved to America, just like the pie did. And he wrote a book about foreign gods in America. And I really love that book. I love the whole idea of these gods being trapped and powerless here in the U.S. Because we have this so absolutely changing mythos of ourselves, and it strips the power away from the gods that have been brought over here. They're forgotten and they're stuck. I really love that book a lot. I really liked the main character a lot. I really felt I identified with him for I can't put my finger on why, but that was a great book. So yeah, American Gods. And I guess that concludes this this book tag. So thanks for watching, and that's been my video.